Welcome to Life on Earth. Welcome to Life on Earth. Welcome to Life on Earth.
Well, hello, you good people. Welcome to Life on Earth. Well, I intentionally stuck the old Life on Earth theme song in there. I'm flying solo. Well, not fully solo, because I've got you all in the chat, but Amy is having a girls' night out. I'm a bachelor tonight. I am all by my lonesome, and I'm okay with that, because I know eventually, someday, she will come back. So it's all good. Let me refresh my chat here. I need to bring up all of you good people. There we go. On the Facebook side, YouTube's already looking good. And I think I might be live on Twitter too, which is weird. But if you're watching from Twitter, by all means, feel free to chime in or go over to YouTube where the numbers are actually more important. The service that I use to send this signal to all the different places gave me a Twitter option recently, and I think I accidentally enabled it because now I see a check mark there. Anyway, whatever. Welcome to 5 Minutes with Robert and usually Amy Nasir and you. And I'm so used to saying we. I am glad that you are here on this fine May 18th, 2025. The 138th day of this, your best year yet. Will you look back in the future and say, my God, 2025 was my best year? Well, best year yet. The next year might be even better, but I'll settle for making this the best. Christmas is in 221 days. If Amy was here, she would ask, when's Halloween? 166 days. Independence Day here in the United States. And that means 4 days into Ocon is in 89 days. Summer in 33, Memorial Day in 8. That's the only one you care about, because it's the unofficial kickoff of summer. We've been having a great time taking advantage of the weather here in the Midwest. I don't know why they call Detroit the Midwest. The northern United States, although I think most of England is actually a higher latitude than where we are here in Motown. Let me go to the chat real quick and check out. Oh, everybody is here. How cool. Very good to see you. I'm going to be counting on you all in the chat. Any questions, conversation, comments that you have in the chat. Because again, I ain't got Amy here to join me, but I do have things that I need to say and you need to hear. Real quick on this date, I got two, because Halley's Comet did not destroy the Earth on this date in 1910. Have we had a good doomsday prediction in a while? And not just the crazy ones, and climate change is going to boil us all alive. Although it was an ice age a few decades ago, it was going to freeze us all. Whatever, climate change. No, but real disasters like Halley's. Did you know Halley's Comet is also pronounced Halley's Comet by some people? And if you ever read Atlas Shrugged and you thought Richard Halley, maybe you thought Richard Haley like I did, my answer to that is it's all good. But back in 1910, Halley's Comet came within the Earth's orbit. The tail of the comet was actually in the orbit. And people were concerned, those people, those in 1910 who knew about astronomy, what's going to happen? It turns out that no, it was not a big deal. Incidentally, Halley's Comet, the tail is primarily dust and ice. And if the Earth goes through that, the worst you would get, and it didn't even really happen much, would be a meteor shower. No big deal. Something cool to see in the sky. It's coming back. Halley's Comet is coming back. Now, those of you who are young enough to still be alive in 2061, and that certainly includes me, maybe, you get to see Halley's Comet in 2061, the only known short period comet consistently visible to the naked eye from Earth. Well, if you happen to be around. Its cycle is every 72 to 80 years, depending on how those two orbits combine. And that's certainly less than a lifetime. So hopefully a lot of you will get to see that when it happens. The other on this date, Mount St. Helens did not Halley's Comet didn't destroy the Earth. Mount St. Helens didn't destroy the Earth. Now, that was a more serious one, because when Mount St. Helens erupted, 57 people were killed, and $1 billion worth of damage was done, and that was the value in 1980 on this date when it happened. So that is $3.4 billion of damage. Thousands of animals were killed, and Mount St. Helens was left with a crater on its north side. Did not destroy the Earth. So, Tom says, Apocalypto, great movie. I have not seen that one, but there are a lot of great apocalypse movies or natural disaster movies. Absolutely. And thank you, Paul, for liking the Welcome to Life on Earth. I haven't used that intro since that show was a thing, episode 108, and could not resist playing that for today's topic, because those of you who have looked ahead know that today's topic is a lust for life, a topic that came up last night at Great Lakes Objectivists, came up many times during the Life on Earth show on the Ayn Rand Center UK, and I haven't said everything there is to say about it yet, so I gotta say more. Neither one of these natural disasters, or is there a word like astrological for astronomy? I am losing my adverbs for astronomy. Astrology, astronomy, same thing. But yes, they did not destroy the Earth. What is the next thing coming up? We had the, the Mayan calendar. I think that one already passed us by and the world didn't come to an end. Maybe that calendar runs to 2032. Maybe that's still coming up. Somebody will tell me in the chat. Point is, turns out it's really hard to destroy the world. It's hard to destroy a lot of things. If it wasn't, assisted suicide would not be such a big deal, but it's actually very hard to kill people. We'll get into that. Those are the only two on this dates I wanted to cover. I'm going to go real quick with all of that. It's also No Dirty Dishes Day. No Dirty Dishes Day. That's weird. Well, somewhere around here. Oh, here we go. I have 12 rules for life. You know, like Jordan Peterson, or like Yaron Brook did. I'll talk about Yaron Brook in a minute. And this is not that, but one of my rules, that is not one of my 12 rules for life, I have a 2-compartment sink, the 2 tubs. And one of them always needs to be empty. Even if you have a dirty dish and you're not going to wash it right away, do not ever get to the point where you have so many dirty dishes, this is one of my extra rules for life, that you don't have at least one sink completely empty. If you don't have a 2-compartment sink, well, then you're just going to have to keep it clean all the day. It goes along with my rules for life, like always back your car into a parking spot. That one came back to bite us in the behind recently because Amy parked her car in a lot where they actually had signs up, which you couldn't see from where she was parking, that said, don't do that. No rear parking, or no backing into spaces, whatever the hell it said. But that leads to the third rule, which is you can, no, not with a T at the end, not can't, you can fight City Hall. Because she did. She fought City Hall. She said, hey guys, I couldn't see any sign that said that, and I'm sure the signs are there, but that's not cool. I want to talk to a judge. And she talked to a judge and got a $120 fine lowered to $30, something like that. They wouldn't wipe it out altogether, and it wasn't going to be worth her time and energy to then go to court versus the Zoom court meeting that she had. But that was kind of cool, actually, and big savings there. No, one of my rules, again, is no dirty dishes. When I saw no dirty dishes, I thought no dirty dishes in the sink. No, it's actually a better holiday. I don't know who started this holiday. Maybe it was Dixie. Because No Dirty Dishes Day actually means use paper plates or eat things that don't create dishes or go out to eat. Just no dirty dishes means don't make any dirty dishes. I thought that's weird. But then I thought, wait, that's cool. Because I mentioned last night was Great Lakes Objectivists, didn't I? We got together at GLOW, Great Lakes Objectivists, and one of the folks who came is somebody we haven't seen in a while. The great entrepreneur in Southeast Michigan, born and raised in South Detroit. Well, he wasn't born and raised in South Detroit, but he's developing South Detroit, the southwest side of the city. He owns multiple buildings, and keeps buying more, refurbishing them into great apartments for people with lower incomes. He's a slumlord, except he's not, because his apartment buildings are in outstanding condition. He's got a team of guys, mostly Latino for you anti-immigrant people, who come in and take these older buildings and make them great. So Larry Mason, some of you will know him. The Objectivists may know him. He was at Ocon a few years ago and hanging out with us. And he was here last night at Glow, and he said, well, I'll tell you in a minute what he said. Real quick, the birthdays for today are Tina Fey. I don't know much about Tina Fey. I never watched 30 Rock, but I will always say Tina Fey sounded more like Sarah Palin than Sarah Palin did. One of the reasons why Sarah Palin never became vice president, even though she tried, and why she's not president of the United States now, is precisely that Tina Fey saved us from her. Now, some of you might think, well, I don't know, Sarah Palin was kind of dumb and maybe kind of dangerous, but she was also kind of cute. She had a certain charm about her. Well, I say the same thing about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Some of you may not know who that is. That's AOC for the people who never saw the long version written out. But I don't want her to be president of the United States. God, no. So thank you, Tina Fey, for saving us from Sarah Palin. It's her birthday today. It's the birthday of Mark Mothersbaugh as well, of Devo, mastermind behind Devo, as well as Jerry Casale. I don't know if we have Linda in the chat. She, of course, has Jerry Casale. This is secret. Don't spread this around because, people have private lives, but he is a customer of Quent Cordair Fine Arts, CORDAIR.com. It's also the birthday of Rick Wakeman, of, many things, but of course from my favorite band, Yes. So happy birthday to Rick Wakeman, 76 years old today. Two people who aren't with us anymore, Frank Capra. Of course, all those heartfelt movies, including It's a Wonderful Life, very controversial in objectivist circles. It's a Wonderful Life is not my favorite movie. And I can understand why some people think it's a terrible movie. It implies all manner of self-sacrifice and giving up your ambition for altruist reasons. And if you understand the film that way, behind you, 100%, totally get it. I see why you hate the film. Not everybody takes it that way, and for not non-objective reasons. So if you love that film, that may be cool too, if you want to share why you love it. It really depends. But both of those types of values are in there, good ones and bad ones. Finally, it's Bertrand Russell's birthday, the late philosopher. And because of Christopher Hitchens, whenever I think Bertrand Russell, I don't think of his peculiar analytic philosophy. I just think of his Teapot. Because it's still out there, in orbit, around the sun. It just happens to be in the same orbit as us and directly opposite the sun, so you can't see it. And because of the sun's radiation, you can't detect it or measure it. And he gave that as an example. Incidentally, look at this cup. Amy's not here tonight, so I'm using one of Amy's coffee mugs. You have the cherries there, which kind of goes with the lemons. This is my Life Gives You Lemons shirt that relates to tonight's topic. Amy is also represented, by the way, obviously, by the bunny pillow there. So yes, Bertrand Russell's birthday. He gave the teapot as an example of the arbitrary. And, of course, Christopher Hitchens would use it constantly in every speech, or it felt like every speech he gave about religion. You can say there's a God. You can offer, this is what I believe, and I believe it really hard. And, I can say I believe in a teapot orbiting the sun, opposite the earth, undetectable, but it's out there. I believe in it. And my life is made better by that belief, knowing that this charming object is out there circling the sun with us. It makes my life richer. It makes my life better. It gives me a sense of charm about the world. Well, you get the idea. So happy birthday to the late, kind of great Bertrand Russell. Let me catch up with the chat here before I get into the self-promotion and what am I listening to this week here. Thank you for being in the chat. And several of you in the chat, of course, attended Great Lakes Objectivists last night. I want to give a huge shout out, big thank you. It was a very, very good night. Jim Ashley, incidentally, says on the Facebook side of things, I'm late. I was making a Waldorf salad. That's interesting because last night Amy made a Pharaoh salad. Well, not just a farro salad, but a salad with farro in it. And so if you, Jim, are making a nut salad tonight, farro, for folks who don't know, is a kind of wheat, and you cook it before you put it in the salad. But if you're making a Waldorf salad, that's very much... Now Jim goes on to say, you're by yourself. Does this mean we can talk about... Of course we can talk about Amy. We absolutely can talk about Amy, but no need to put the devil horn emoji in there, because, of course, anything I say about Amy is going to be fawning in my love and deep romance for her, respect and all of those good things. Would never dream of saying anything snarky while she's gone, but then again, we'll see how that goes. Let me double check the YouTube side of things, see if I have missed anything. Where is your better half? She is my better half. That is true. I once said she saved my life, and I meant it, and I still say that, actually. Ian says, I dropped Twitter last year, too much garbage. Twitter has become... I used to say Twitter was useless, because I was a Facebook guy, and Twitter was like, it does everything Facebook does and less. So why would you want it? And I eventually, would check every now and then just to see. But you're right, Ian, I agree. Facebook, Twitter, there's just nothing there. What is Twitter good for? I guess some celebrities check in there regularly, and if it's somebody you really like and you want to see the short posts by them, that's cool, I guess, maybe. Paul says an ice age would be good. It would keep the riffraff out. There you go. If you make life too easy, it's like just letting anybody in. Absolutely. And Stephen Catt says, did you see the SNL skit about the Mayan calendar? I did not, but now I know to look that up. And as Greg points out, if Dick Van Dyke can rattle off on... Dick Van Dyke, isn't he 99 years old now? And, people are taking pictures of him in his jogging suit, and he's still in shape and too damn sweet. We had a lot of people live to their 90s that we lost recently. And, like Jessica Fletcher. Of course, Angela Lansbury. And, we lost Maggie Smith recently. Well, yeah, lots of greats that lived long. And hopefully we all will, too, and get that chance to see Halley's Comet when it comes around. Ian says, are there Glow members from each of the Great Lakes? I don't think there's any Glow members from any of the Great Lakes. I think we're all from the land, actually, but thanks for asking. Mount St. Helens. Small compared to Tambora. Oh, my gosh, yes. The year without a summer. Absolutely, Paul. And anybody who doesn't know about the year without a summer, look that one up, because I don't think we appreciate natural disasters. We get, flummoxed when there's a natural disaster, and it's sad when dozens of people die. I think the tsunami, not tsunami, what was it? The underwater earthquake. I guess that is a tsunami that happened in the Indian Ocean in 2003, I believe. That was the worst. That was absolutely the worst. But yeah. And Tom rightly points out that Rick Wakeman did play on Morning Has Broken by Cat Stevens. He's on a lot of things. It's kind of like Jimmy Page. If you start looking up all the sessions he played in his case, before Led Zeppelin, it's surprising the things he played, like both Page and Plant, or not Page and Plant, Jones. Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones played on Goldfinger, the theme song, Shirley Bassey, the theme song for the film. Rick Wakeman has been on all sorts of things, of course worked with David Bowie, has played on Spiders from Mars and some of the great early Bowie stuff, including Space Oddity, which I never liked. I always thought that song was too freaking spooky, and the sad ending on it. But the great Rick Wakeman was on that one, absolutely. Stephen asks, wouldn't a small object between the Earth and Mars orbit Mars or the Earth and not the Sun? Sure, but the postulate here again is that it's in Earth's orbit but opposite the Sun from the Earth. So there should be no substantial skewing there. I guess in theory, if Mars came close enough to... But Mars would never come near the Earth's orbit, so it will never come near the Teapot's orbit either. So, fair question. There you go. Christopher Smith says Martha Stewart is like 83 and looks amazing. Yeah, didn't she recently pose on the cover of, was it the swimsuit edition of Sports Illustrated? At, 80 years old. And did a reasonably good job with that. All right, let me jump to shameless self-promotion and what are we listening to this week? Because If you are not on Facebook, or if you're on Facebook but haven't looked at my wall recently, you missed when I said you have got to watch, if you haven't already, or rewatch if it's been a while since you watched it, a YouTube video by Alex Epstein, who, like many of us for years, I called Alex Epstein because I used to watch Welcome Back, Kotter, and that's how Epstein was pronounced. But no, rhymes with Einstein. That's how I remember Alex Epstein's last name. Pronunciation, as some people like to do, pronunciation for the rest of us. How to leverage objectivism to become a leader in your field. Have any of you Ayn Rand fans out there ever gone to a get-together like GLOW, Great Lakes Objectivists? Well, no, that wouldn't happen there, but to OCON or Ayn Rand Con or any of the mini-cons or other conferences, groups of objectivists getting together. And you meet a bunch of people, and a lot of them end up being kind of like you. But some of the events that I've been to, well, there's a lot of introverts. Well, that's me, right? A lot of shy people. But the very first time you went to a meeting like that, did you look around and think, wow, I was kind of expecting everybody to be super successful, wealthy, rich, goes without saying, Hank Rearden levels of rich, or at least something like that, and incredibly happy. And I didn't see it. And good people, and they're reasonably happy, and they were obviously getting something out of this philosophy, but, were you kind of expecting a bunch of Hank Reardens and Francisco d'Anconias and Howard Rourke's? If you had that feeling ever in getting into these ideas, you need to listen to that talk by Alex Epstein, not Epstein. Because he opens with exactly that. He was younger when he gave the talk, but when he was even younger than when he was younger, he had that experience, and he talks about a friend of his had that experience too. And I totally get it. I totally get the feeling. I mentioned the aforementioned Larry Mason, who, again, is this amazing entrepreneur in Southeast Michigan. Came to GLOW last night, and he said something very kind. He was very generous in saying, well, Robert, you and Amy are more like what you want to see in objectivism or want to see in people. You take these ideas and then you actually use them to bring more passion, more joie de vie, more happiness into your life. I thought, well, that was very generous, but modestly, because I'm incredibly modest, because I'm incredibly introverted, as we've discussed. I thought, well, I know people who've done a lot better than I have with that. But it was a great compliment, and to the extent that there's any truth in that at all, and even more important, to the extent that the discussions Amy and I have had, or I have had, on this show, on Life on Earth, on social media, anywhere else, to the extent that that's encouraged anybody else to say, yeah, I can live large. I can spend more time with a smile on my face. I can think about my values, the good stuff in my life more, and the disvalues in life maybe a little bit less. I'll take it. Absolutely. It was a very, very nice thing to have said it. And in that regard, the second link and all of this is in the YouTube description, the Facebook description, probably on the X description if it's actually out there. Let me check that again, see if I can figure out if I'm actually live out there right now. I don't know. Let's see, notes, 5 minutes. Yeah, there I am. But are there comments in you mentioned you don't use X. Yeah, I don't use it much either. So if people are commenting on X, I haven't figured out how to look at your comments. Please come over to the YouTube side, just so that I don't neglect you. But also, of course, selfishly, he says, so you get our numbers up, our view counts, our likes, our shares, whatever you're in for. So thank you for that. I mentioned Frank Capra. Jim Ashley says, one Frank Capra movie that I'll take over It's a Wonderful Life is Lost Horizon. I have not seen that yet. And I haven't read the book either. So obviously I should do that. And it's a longer comment here, released in 1937, starring Ronald Colman and Spock's mother, by which he means, of course, Jane Wyatt. It's true that, like It's a Wonderful Life, it also has some socialism in it. Not so much altruism, no mysticism, but a little sci-fi, I'd say. But it is very life and happiness affirming. But I don't recommend, Jim says, anyone see the 1973 musical remake. It stinks. Okay, thank you for that suggestion and that warning. I appreciate it. So in line with all of this, you know we've had this discussion before in different ways, different forms than we're doing tonight. One of them was an essay of Life on Earth, which is, of course, why I couldn't resist playing the Life on Earth theme song on the Ayn Rand Center UK channel. A link to that is in the show notes. Again, in the YouTube description, the Facebook description, presumably on X, however that works as well. That was a good episode. I thought that was a good one. And I don't think I released the script, which I've done for some of these on my Substack at robertnasir.substack.com. So do give that a look if after tonight's show you think, oh, I want a little more of that. The third link is, it's just a link to Iggy Pop's song Lust for Life. Iggy Pop's song Lust for Life is not the greatest song about having a lust for life, but it's on the list. Maybe it's high up on the list. I don't know. It's just Iggy Pop. I mean, it's just, a rock song, and kind of a raw rock song, as the author of the album Raw Power would do, although that song was actually on the album called Lust for Life. It's a good song. I like it. I'm not Iggy Pop's biggest fan, but I've seen him live, and he's good at what he does. So that's all I've got under videos. Hot topics for this week. Let's see. I mentioned the glow rules, or Robert's rules. Glow rules. Oh, no, these are different. In the 2-compartment sink, always have at least one sink empty. Okay, I mentioned that on this fine No Dishes Day. Incidentally, speaking of that, for Glow, for Great Lakes Objectivists, we always serve dinner. Last night it was Amy's special salad, farro and cantaloupe, and I can't even remember everything that was in that salad. And burger night, oven fries and all this stuff. And it was Larry who said, "Do you have any paper plates?" I wonder if he knew it was No Dirty Dishes Day coming up. I've never, I don't think, in more than 10 years of doing this, had anybody say, "Have you got paper plates?" But of course we do. We did. Gave him paper plates. I think a couple people used them. We had fewer dishes to do at the end of the night. That was an interesting and kind of cool question. So, Glow rules. One sink, always empty. Number 2. Remember this, folks, the next time you do a get-together. When throwing a party, always leave the front door unlocked and open. Most of these rules are pet peeves of mine. If we're inviting people over, the door should be open and unlocked. But what happens is people arrive and they naturally, coming to somebody's house, close the door behind themselves, which is why you have to make a rule. The next rule is never block access to the microwave oven. Oh yeah, we have a countertop microwave, and folks will set their drink down in front of it and then forget their drink, and now you've got a drink, and then somebody sets a plate and somebody goes to use a microwave. There's a bunch of stuff. You can tell these are pet peeves because they make no sense. Beverages are on the top shelf of the refrigerator. If you ever come over to our place, beverages are on the top shelf of the refrigerator. Nevertheless, regarding anything in the refrigerator, you are welcome to it. But if you take the last of anything, let us know. You should have rules like this. Silly rules, but they're your rules. They're fun rules. And rules that are kind of silly. Like, if there's anything in the refrigerator you want and you've come over to our house, you are welcome to it. Although, again, if you take the last of anything, please let us know. Let me double check my chat here and see what's going on. Sorry, some of these are not questions, but they are curious. Martha Stewart levels. Yes, Martha Stewart is holding up well. Thank you for that, Christopher Smith. Tom Harrison says, the moral case for fossil fuels and fossil future. Yes, if you go to read those books by Alex Epstein, not Epstein, do read Fossil Future. It contains just about everything in the moral case for fossil fuels. But there are a few of the statements he made in the first book, which he has said he has updated in the second book, that he wouldn't stand by. But the first book does make the moral case, and whether you want to get into the stats or not, and try to figure out which of his stats were not fully accurate, whatever. Fossil Future will give you all of that and more. Thank you for that, Tom. Tom says, when I first listened to Alex Epstein, he was just okay, in my opinion. in my opinion. He got better with every speech, and now he is simply amazing. It's the whole 5,000 hours thing, right? They say if you do anything for 5,000 hours, you will get good at it by the time you've done that many hours. Yeah, I'm good with that. Oh, wait, is it 10,000 hours in 5 years? There's 10,000 hours in 5 years of anything that you do 50 weeks a year for 8 hours a day. So given that there are 2,080 working hours in a year, but most people take 2 weeks off for vacation, unless you guys are in Europe. In Europe, they take weeks and weeks. In France, they take months off for vacation. I'm not judging, but, there it is. Oh, by the way, the United States of America still has the highest per capita GDP of any nation in the world, so you decide whose vacation standards rule. All right, enough of that. Back to the chat here. Fun. Bertrand Russell fact from Matthew Humphreys. From Barrister Humphreys, he says, from around 1955 to his death in 1970, his main residence was in a Welsh village called... Now, you're going to have to give me a phonetic pronunciation for this, or I will brutalize this. Penrhynderwydreth. No, can't even try it. Anyway, it's because it's Welsh. Anything in Wales, a city name is going to be 18 characters long. He says, I grew up in the same village in the 1980s and 1990s. Matthew, can you pronounce the word even after living there for 2 decades? Probably, actually. He can do all of that stuff with very few vowels and lots of consonant strings. And good on you for that. But yes, Bertrand Russell, he was a genius. And he wasn't one of those like malevolent, evil geniuses like Immanuel Kant or Hegel or... No, he was modern but very cool. What do we have stocked there? What do we have stocked in our refrigerator? It's the day after Glow, so we've got leftovers. And too many bottles of death water, which is a strange marketing. Death Springs, is it? Anyway, spring water. Point is, spring water. I have a quirky spring water affectation. Whenever I see more expensive spring waters on sale, I have to buy them. And here, I'll crack this one out. This is Icelandic. I buy them because it's ridiculous. What is the sense of importing spring water from Iceland and selling it in Iceland? We're in Motown, Detroit, Michigan. We're just outside of Detroit. How much does it cost to move 500 milliliters of water from Iceland to Michigan? It's stupid. It's foolish. It makes no sense. Now, granted, I'm sure it's all on a big tanker boat ship that comes up the St. Lawrence Seaway or however the hell it got to my supermarket. So the per unit cost is more trivial than it sounds. Why? What the hell even? Just go to a spring in Absopure somewhere in Michigan. Why would you send water 1,000 miles and I'm going to sit here and drink it like it's nothing? I get a charge out of that because it's ridiculous. It's silly. We talked a little bit about humor this afternoon during Kirk Barbera's discussion of the Romantic Manifesto, humor being a highly contextual and personal value. So when I see things like this, or the death water that I was drinking last night, or, Fiji water, why would you water from the Fiji Islands? Put it on a boat and bring it here. It's water. It's H2O. I'm going to guess for all the water in this bottle, there are 2 parts hydrogen to each part oxygen, although the oxygen parts are bigger, so there are little tiny hydrogen hangers on there. It's the same freaking, but there's different alkalines and minerals in there. And then you look at the ingredients, and all of those are trace minerals, and nothing significant, which I think is hilarious. Generally, we have cases of Ice Mountain, which is a reasonably inexpensive water, not quite store brand level, but not much better than that. That's why you should never drink during the show. Anyway, quirk of mine, I get a kick out of expensive waters because they make no sense whatsoever. There you go. And Matthew came in with the pronunciation. He says it's pronounced something like Penrhynderwydreth. I can't say it like it's all one word. Penry. As soon as I get to Penryn, I'm lost. But thank you for that, Matthew. For those of us who are wondering, we're at least saying it in our heads. And Jason Adams of Objectivists Matters points out that according to Michael Moore, that water in Flint ain't too good. Well, it really wasn't too good. No, there's lead in the water, too many lead pipes somewhere in the sourcing. And yeah, folks needed to install what are called NSF 53 level filters. And then you're drinking water and all the lead is filtered out. Free market solutions to collectivist problems. Absolutely. Christopher Smith says, can I get a Diet Coke? The Diet Coke we have is, right now, is Coke Zero. So it's not only diet, it has no caffeine in it. If you want caffeine and you want it to be 0 calorie, you're going to have to hit up the Keurig machine, for which we always have a large variety of coffees. Tonight I'm drinking Starbucks. But if you don't care that it has no sugar or caffeine, yeah, we got you covered. I think both Coke and Pepsi Zero. Some night we'll have a Coke and Pepsi war. Equal to Reality says, I'd love to come to a glow next time I'm in the USA, or when I am going my coast to coast. If you're doing a coast to coast, that would be very cool, and you should let us know if you get anywhere near Motown. Absolutely. We'll buy you dinner, or if you come to the house, we'll make you dinner. Very, very cool. Ian says, isn't it 10,000? So you were right, and I sort of corrected myself there, but you're right. 10,000 hours is what you get, 2,000 hours a year times 5 years, which makes perfect sense. Avion facial spray, when you ballin'. Okay, now we're getting hardcore here. And there we go. Yes, we do have it. And Tom says, switch to Coke Zero real good. Somebody who comes to Glow regularly brought some soda with him, both the Coke Zero and Sprite Zero, and I thought that was interesting. You're telling me I need to lose weight? If he is, he's right. And I am, as I mentioned before, getting my beach body ready for Ocon, which is taking a lot of hard work. Those of you on social media, of course, know all about that. Jim says the Icelandic spring waters are very pure and maybe contain some good minerals, so much so that the people are expected to refill water bottles while driving the ring road if they want. The Icelanders are very proud of their water. It's 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. I mean, I get it. It is. It's all about the minerals and the alkalines. Is alkalines a noun as well as an adjective? Anyway, I get it. I totally get it. It's still bizarre to me. 1,000 miles to give me this bottle of water. It's amazing you can buy that for $1. Then again, I always say one of the great things about the world we live in is that you can buy things from around the world for trivial costs. Bananas are less than $1 a pound. If bananas weren't already a thing in supermarkets, and you found out that, well, in tropical places, these big, massive bunches of bananas grow, and you pick them, and they're just there. But what would it cost to get them from the tropics to, say, Motown, or the UK, or Europe, or anywhere that's not already in the tropics? But we're already doing it, and we're doing it at scale, and it's all easy. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. And Maria says it was a great salad. Thank you, Maria. It was a great salad, and I'm so glad that you were here last night. If you're not already a friend of Maria Apartamentos Mason on Facebook, by all means, I don't know how many friends she's taking, but if you follow her exploits, she's like ruling Southeast Michigan in all the best of ways, bringing people together. Both for business and personal, and it's super cool. So Maria, glad that you were here, and I'm glad that you enjoyed Amy's salad. It was the special part of the night. People who attend our get-togethers understand if there's some food here, and there always is, we always serve dinner. If it's fancy, Amy made it. If it's guy thing, like, burgers, tacos, spaghetti, I probably made it. So there you go. Last night I made everything except for the very special salad. Just fancy water in a can for spraying yourself off on a hot day. I mean, I drink tap water, so there you go. Of course, I have one of those NSF 53 filters on both my refrigerator and my kitchen sink. So those of you who attend our glow meetings are safe in drinking the water from any of the things that might be in the pipes out there. Stephen asks, what do we think of Malcolm Gladwell, though? Didn't he popularize the idea of 10,000 hours in his book Outliers? He did. You're exactly right about that. And that's all I have to say, because I haven't read the damn book yet. It's on my someday if ever list. And if you have read the book, I'd be curious to know what you think of it. And Tom says Robert runs the grill. That's exactly what I did last night. That's true. And deep cleaned it before the event last night, which is more than I do when I'm just barbecuing chicken out there for me and Amy. So I hope folks enjoyed their dinner. Always have at least one banana when I play tennis. Bananas are great food, not just for potassium, but it's a great way to get calories. It's just a great food. So yeah, it's amazing that I can get a banana for 50 cents at a grocery store, and $1.25 for a candy bar. And I have nothing against candy bars, but bananas are like this miracle thing. And candy bars are squirted out of a factories too. I love factories, but bananas, 50 cents, crazy. So there you go. We were studying the Romantic Manifesto this afternoon. We're at the aesthetic vacuum of our age. And I'm going to read a quote from this from Ayn Rand. Man, the nature of man, the metaphysically significant, important, essential in man, is now she wrote this in the 1960s, but this was the state of literature at the time, is now represented by dipsomaniacs. I don't think anybody nowadays knows what alcoholics, dipsomaniacs, drag addicts. That's, I think, a typo there. I think that's drug addicts. Although nowadays, with the drag queens in elementary schools. Okay. Sexual perverts, homicidal maniacs, and psychotics. The subjects of modern literature are such themes as the hopeless love of a bearded lady for a mongoloid pinhead in a circus sideshow, or the problem of a married couple whose child was born with 6 fingers on her left hand, or the tragedy of a gentle young man who just can't help murdering strangers in the park for kicks. This might sound like, the 1960s, they were crazy, and she had good reason to criticize them, but when I see this young man who just can't help murdering strangers, and I think of like television shows like Dexter, well, of course, they couched that in a way where he used his evil for good. Totally get it. Let me go on real quick, one more paragraph of this. All this is, get this now, all of this is still presented to us under the naturalistic heading of a slice of life or real life. But the old slogans have worn thin. The obvious question to which the heirs of statistical naturalism have no answer is, if heroes and geniuses are not to be regarded as representative of mankind, by reason of their numerical rarity, why are freaks and monsters to be regarded as representative? Why are the problems of a bearded lady of greater universal significance than the problems of a genius? Why is the soul of a murderer worth studying, but not the soul of a hero? When we discussed this afternoon, that essay, and the one before it, we did 2 of them today, I immediately thought of last night when, Larry was good enough to point out, well, you guys are living these ideas, and, more people need to do that. And I thought, well, that goes to the point of literature, this idea that literature shouldn't just be a slice of life. It should be realistic, and you should be able to identify with it, but it should be larger than life. And I thought, yeah, we should be larger than life. And Larry was very kind, but I'd look at myself in the metaphorical mirror and say, yeah, I'm doing that, but I could be doing more. I could be doing better. I should be doing more. I should be doing better. Folks who hang out with us on Sunday nights like this, you know that that's a regular theme that we return to. One of the reasons why we present these discussions is because I say the things I need to hear. I need to be reminded to live larger, that I deserve to live large, that you deserve to live large. We discussed at Glow, the topic for the evening. We always have an academic subject, something to do with Well, Objectivism, Great Lakes Objectivists. And what we did is it's fun because we went around the room and we read out loud and discussed Ayn Rand's essay, Philosophy, Who Needs It? A talk she gave at West Point to the cadets graduating from West Point. And toward the end of the talk, she addressed the cadets more personally than just talking about philosophy. She said one of the things that she deeply respects about the cadets at West Point is that they preserved 3 characteristics that used to be common but are now virtually unknown. 3 characteristics. These 3 qualities of character which were typical at the time of Americans' birth. Earnestness, dedication, a sense of honor. Now, I did a whole episode of Life on Earth on honor. And dedication is an interesting one, but it's really pride in practice. Remember, Ayn Rand regards pride not as self-esteem, but as a virtue, as something you do, as a way of living. And dedication to your values is like dedication to your moral ideals, which is what pride is. But that first one, earnestness. You know, we brought it up during the Romantic Manifesto discussion. Humor. Oh, the other essay was bootleg romanticism. And the idea of bootleg romanticism is that there are writers out there who will bootleg romanticism, bootleg heroes. They will give you heroes, but in a way that, you know, it doesn't feel like you're taking it too seriously. You know, you give them a sense of humor, for example, or you make something about them humorous. You know, you tamp it down so you can get away with. And I immediately thought of The Princess Bride, which Michael Leibowitz recently said he had never seen before, Mark Pellegrino. So you got to see it. He finally did. And that characteristic that Ayn Rand mentioned, earnestness, the importance of being earnest. Now, this is unrelated to that, although obviously the concept was used to great effect by Oscar Wilde. Now, that quality of being serious and sincere and direct, without malice, just open. That is something I want more of in my life. And I'm pretty earnest. I'm not, one of the things I like to see least in people, even more so than, cruelty or meanness. One of the worst things I can see in a person is hooliganism. The hooligan attitude of taking nothing serious. Every smile is accompanied by a sneer. It's just an unhealthy amusement. And to me, the opposite of that is earnestness. To be direct, to be open, to be vulnerable, to be straightforward. What you see with a person who is earnest is what you get. Pink Floyd wrote a whole record album, a rock opera, on the theme of the walls that we put up between us and the people in our lives, between us and the values in our lives, between us and our own best selves. Earnestness is the exact opposite of that. There are no walls with a person who is earnest. He is open, he is vulnerable. And the great thing about being vulnerable is vulnerability is strength. Because an earnest person, he doesn't even say bring it on, which is what I usually say. That's my mnemonic, my reminder to myself. Whether it's I'm encountering unpleasant people or I'm going to the dentist and they pull out the drill or whatever, I go to donate blood and they're putting the needles in. The phrase that I use is bring it on. But real earnestness doesn't even do that, because bring it on implies a certain, I got to be tough. No, an earnest person doesn't even have to be tough. He's just who he is. Yeah, that's the Howard Rourke approach. So it was great to be told, more objectivists should be like you. You've got the joie de vie, the passion, the lust for life. but I need to do better. And as I try to do better, I'm going to encourage all of you out there to do better too. Some of you don't need to. Some of you are like, what are you talking about? I'm great. And I have no problem with any of that. But if any of this resonates with you and you're thinking, I need to stand up taller, eyes wider open, unguarded, vulnerable. Nobody can hurt me. I mean, sure, they can find ways to hurt me. They can steal something from me or whatever it is. But none of that goes very deep. No. That is what I want more of, and it's what I encourage for you. Those three qualities of, she didn't say virtue, she said qualities of character: earnestness, dedication, a sense of honor. I'm going to keep working on it. You each, I'm not saying you should do it. What I'm going to say is you deserve to do it. You deserve to have that in your life. You deserve more of that. And from the people around you, you deserve to expect and encourage that from all of them. I want all of us to be able to watch Alex Epstein's talk from years ago, how to leverage objectivism to be a leader in your field, and say, that's good, but I got that covered. That is so much not an issue. Now, as an objectivist, I think anybody can look at me and say, so that's what you get out of those ideas. It's very kind of Larry to say that, and I'm not saying he's wrong, but I also know that I've got much more I can do. If you do too, join me on it. Thank you for that. I'm going to just double check the chat here one more time before we wrap up. Maria says the burgers were hot. Thank you for that. They were okay. It's hard to live up to what Amy does, but yeah, they were good burgers. And the only mistake I made is when you grill burgers, if you have a quarter-pound burger, it's going to shrink. It's going to be too small. You make them a third of a pound. Now, it turns out a third of a pound wasn't big enough. I should have made them half-pounders because grills do. Anyway, whatever. Thank you. I do appreciate that, and I enjoyed them too. What made them good is you got to put the cheese on while they're still on the grill if you are a cheeseburger person. Jim says the only Malcolm Gladwell book I've heard of is The Tipping Point, which sounded interesting. Is that one worth a read? I haven't read Gladwell. I only know him from his interviews on podcasts and shows. But that's it. I don't have a Post-it note for the week. My last Post-it note here says, how many millions, 100,000 consider themselves, 10,000 serious oist. This is fun. Yaron Brook did a show just before this one. And one of the questions he got asked was, see, I listen to Yaron and he gets asked questions and I always think, why doesn't anybody ask me this question? Here's the question. In a culture that approached philosophy with the same earnestness, can you believe that word came up in this guy's question? In a culture that approached philosophy with the same earnestness and reverence as past eras, treating it as a guide to life, not an academic parlor trick, the objectivist movement would have far more traction. Not really a question there. I'm like, man, that's a great question or a great comment, and Yaron agreed. And it's exactly what came up during the discussion of the Romantic Manifesto, what came up in our discussion of Philosophy Who Needs It, what I thought of when Ayn Rand said, you at West Point have preserved those three qualities, including earnestness. I really love that. So this Post-it note was also from Yaron's show, but somebody asked him, how many objectivists are there? And he gave a great answer, which is, I don't know, nobody knows. But he said, and I thought this was a good estimate, there are millions who have been affected by Ayn Rand's ideas, whose lives have been impacted. There are probably hundreds of thousands who consider themselves to be objectivists, or at least who identify with Ayn Rand's philosophy. And there are probably tens of thousands of serious objectivists. I thought those are reasonable numbers. And that's exactly how I've put it in, well, not in the same words, but that's how I put it in the past. And I think those millions who've heard of Ayn Rand, who like what she had to say, they don't consider themselves objectivists, but they were influenced by Ayn Rand. I think that's important in saving the world. No, not in turning the world objectivist, but just in keeping things as good as they've been. And if you don't think things are good, you've got to look more at science and technology and engineering and manufacturing and all of the fields except for the humanities. And in some cases, even in the humanities, especially if you're a rock and roller. And those 100,000 who consider themselves objectivists, even though they don't seriously study the philosophy, still important and do have a little more influence. and the tens of thousands who regard themselves as serious objectivists, well, those are my people. And again, I think Ayn Rand has already saved the world several times over. That's a discussion for another time. It's a discussion we've had in past times. We're not done. Tom, thank you for saying awesome talk. I appreciate that. Ian says, what is your favorite Yes album? And I always go back and forth on that one between Close to the Edge and Relayer. But some days the latter of all albums really does it for me. That and Going for the One and the Yes album. There's probably 8 Yes albums that I can listen to from Needle Drop to the end of side 2, skipping no songs whatsoever. So that's a tough question. Probably Close to the Edge. And it's if you're a progressive rock fan, it's the place to start. Stephen Katz says, do you give money to the PLF, Pacific Legal Foundation? No, I don't. I give money to several organizations, but I think the only objectivist organization I financially support is ARI. And not in an enormous way, but since you asked, there you go. Any better legal organizations out there? There are others that are good, but no, as far as better, no, by all means, it's a good organization to support. Jim says, gotta go, you're doing a great job. So thank you for that, I appreciate it. I have to take my answer in the replay, but is farro salad easy to make? No, it's not. But it's not terribly difficult to make. When you buy farro, it's like wheat. So you've got to cook it. You got to boil it first. And you got to cut up cantaloupe, and you'll need feta cheese, and most of the things that you need for it you can buy pre-prepared. Like you can buy cantaloupe cubes, you can buy feta that's already crumbled, and the only hard part is preparing the wheat, the farro. So anyway, thanks for asking. Whether you're listening to that live or not, Ian says Tormato is surprisingly good. Yeah, but there's only so many times I can listen to Circus of Heaven, and although we think of, that there's quirky songs on there that, are kind of skipping songs. I listened to Tormato recently out on a bike ride, and I was ready to skip the song Arriving UFO, which is really goofy, but it is an amazing rocker. That song really rocks. Listen to Steve Howe on that song, and it's amazing. So you're right, Tormato is surprisingly good. Ian says Relayer is the best. It really is. And the first time I listened to Relayer, I thought, whoa, what the hell? I'm never going to like this album. I had a side 2. It was a little more accessible, but side 1, which is a single song, The Gates of Delirium, it took me probably 5 or 6 listens to really begin to enjoy the song. And now it's one of my favorites. And I say that just because there's certain things that I will listen to. First time I heard Rachmaninoff's Third Piano Concerto, I'm like, depressing. I'm never listening to that again. And it takes several listens for me to be able to get into it and realize, oh my God, this is so good. And I know there are people out there who will tell me, oh no, Robert, the first time I heard that, I loved it. And I'm like, that's cool if that's how your musical mind works, but don't necessarily write things off because your first time in you thought, why would somebody do this? This is just not enjoyable. Think about that. Stephen Katz says, what do you do if you hit a driverless car? I'm not sure I understand the question. You do the same thing you would do if you hit a driver's car, except you don't ask the computer in the car for its license. You just call the police and report it and contact your insurance company, and they'll figure out what to do from there. There are some interesting questions about driverless cars, but there we go. Folks, that's all I've got. Again, my Post-it note was just, here's the note that I wrote to myself. Maybe this is useful to you. Call this my Post-it note for the week. Earnestness or lightheartedness? And it gets back to that topic of, should you enjoy, serious, earnest movies, or should you enjoy comedies? And there's a union of that. The way Amy described it earlier is if it's got heart, something like Blazing Saddles or The Princess Bride, if it's got heart, if you can say about the characters, I want to be more like that. I don't want to be exactly like that. I don't want to be a comedian, but I want to be as brave as, Bart in Blazing Saddles. I want to be as brave as, Wesley, the Man in Black in The Princess Bride. If you can look at the heroes, even in a comedy, and say, I can get something out of that. Not every film needs to be the 1950 version of Cyrano de Bergerac, although more films should be. But earnestness or lightheartedness? No, both. Give me both. Give me quiet strength. Give me that. Folks, thanks for joining us. We'll be back. Well, we will be back. Not just me. We'll be back next week. We will do this again. But with that said, I'm just going to wish you all of the success. And, the success you get by being earnest, by being strong, by being self-confident, by practicing the virtue of pride, that you already, right now, without even trying any harder, but just keep being your awesome self, that you already deserve. And that's why, as always, and I'm going to do this with a little outro music, because a good friend Paul always says, well, on YouTube, when you stop the stream, it actually cuts it off before the end. Well, I'm not going to let that happen. I am going to wish each and every one of you big, enormous, selfish, proud love. And I'm going to send you out with some music so that it doesn't get cut off, folks. See you in 7 days.